Welcome to the Honest Healing Podcast, real talk for cycle breakers. I'm your host, Katie Delamon. If you're ready to speak up, set boundaries, heal your nervous system, and build better relationships, you're in the right place. Because you don't need to be perfect to heal. You just need to be honest. Let's go. Episode 2 of Honest Healing, Penniless in a Bikini, the burnout breakdown that changed my life. In today's episode, I'm going to be answering a question that I received from somebody in my audience. They asked, how did my healing journey begin? And what do I do when the old pain is overwhelming? If you want to know my full story, I would recommend reading my memoir, Trust the Flames, my wild ride from mindlessness to mindfulness. In this memoir, I go over many stories on my journey of healing. And in today's episode, I'll probably cover one or two stories. But where it began is knowing that something was wrong and I didn't know what it was or how to change it or fix it, but I knew something was wrong. I was about 26 years old. My mom had passed away from cancer, and I just knew that the life I was living was not in alignment to where I wanted to be, let's say, in 10 years, my future self. But from the outside, I was perfectly fine. I was thriving. If anything, I was at the top of my game in a sense. I had an amazing job in New York. People loved me. I loved the people I worked with. I had amazing friends. I had amazing family. I had a great savings. I had no debt. Like, life was good on the outside. Everything was quote unquote fine. But when you started to look on the inside, I was completely burnt out at 26 years old. I didn't have any kids. I didn't have this quote unquote stressful job. Who was I to be burnt out? I would have never in a million years said, I'm burnt out, I have trauma, I don't feel good. Like, I would have never ever said any of that. But I knew something was wrong. I knew it on the inside. I read this book on burnout, and that was when it clicked that, oh my God, I was burnt out at 26 years old, but I would have never had the language for it. I'm just going to go over the 4 signs, the major 4 signs of burnout. One is exhaustion and fatigue. I was always exhausted. I had chronic fatigue. For years, my whole life, I would sleep 12, 18 hours, wake up and be exhausted still. I never woke up and felt like I had energy. I was always tired. And I'm not somebody who ever stayed up late or wanted to stay up late. Like, I was always tired, sleeping a million hours. Cynicism and detachment is another sign. Now, most people would have thought I was a very positive person on the outside, but I was a very, very cynical person on the inside, and I was very detached. I mastered the art of disassociation, especially when I was drinking. So I talk about it a lot, but I was a functional alcoholic in my 20s, but I covered it up so well. But I would drink, excessively at least 3 to 5 days a week when I was living in New York. Almost 80-90% of the time, I would say I was blacking out and definitely disassociating. Another sign is reduced professional efficacy. There was a point in my professional career when I was working in New York City, down on Wall Street for a legal media company, and I wanted to get fired because I wanted to leave the job, but I didn't want to quit. So this story is actually in my book, Trust the Flames. It's one of my favorite parts of the book. I literally, this is no joke, I got drunk at lunch for an entire week. I didn't shower. I wore crazy clothes. I didn't do anything that I was supposed to do for that entire week. I ended up getting promoted at the end of the week. I'm not even kidding you. I can't make this up. It was like an Office Space situation. And another sign of burnout is physical symptoms. I had IBS, I had anxiety, I had chronic fatigue. I had a swollen belly for almost 2 years. I thought I was pretty much allergic to everything. There was so many things going on in my body that were physical symptoms, but I just thought it was, this or that and the food and you name it. I just had all the excuses in the world and no awareness that my body was screaming, you are burnt out and you need to change your environment. But there was something inside of me that knew this. So I actually ended up booking a one-way ticket to Hawaii. It was a $97 flight. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, where I'm going, but I'm booking a one-way flight to Hawaii and I'll figure it out. Booking that one-way flight to Hawaii was what I would now consider flight mode. This is a trauma response or a stress response when you are stressed and overwhelmed. And so you go into that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode. These are the four different modes of the nervous system. Now, it's normal and natural to go into these stress responses, but what I'll talk about later on in the episode is how we can get back to a more regulated, connected state, because that's the goal. The goal isn't to never be stressed and to never go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, is to notice when you're in these modes and then to be able to come back to a more connected, regulated connection. That is what nervous system regulation is. It's about resilience and efficiency, not getting stuck. Now, I would get stuck in these stress responses. So I booked a one-way flight to Hawaii. I ended up then going to Australia, but thinking I was going to be there for a year because of a visa I was getting. The visa actually didn't come through till the day before my flight, which was also a grace from God. And it only ended up being good for 30 days, or sorry, 90 days. And this, threw a wrench in my whole plans in my head. So I went over to Southeast Asia and started backpacking by myself. I was on a budget of $10 a day, y'all. Like I was doing it on the cheap. Now, I'm going to share with you a story of where I believe my moment of grace, where the universe was saying, girl, we're going to put you on a different track because we can see that you're struggling and you need a little help from us. So I was in Vietnam in Nha Trang, which is a beach town. And I just left the hostel, and the woman at the hostel, it was a small little family owned run hostel. She goes, do you want to keep your wallet here because things get stolen off the beach? And I was like, no, I will keep it myself. Thank you very much. Anyways, I'm at the beach. It's super hot, and I noticed this guy on the beach was making sandballs. He seemed really sketch, but I needed to get into the water. And so here's a little blurb from my book, Trust of Flames, page 117. I got to the water's edge and let out an audible sigh of relief as the cool water lapped against my ankles. I waded in up to my knees. Just as I was about to lower myself in, aching for relief from the scorching heat, I saw the sandball guy run straight for my towel. I tried to stand, but it was as if I was moving in slow motion. I saw the water droplets catch the sunlight as they spun from my hands. But the sandball guy seemed to be moving at warp speed. Before I could even step out of the water, he was at my towel, scooping up everything with both arms and clutching it into his chest like you'd grab a runaway child. My towel, wallet, phone, keys, and even my sandals were held tight in his arms. I lunged out of the water and started running after him. Even though I was wet, the sand was already burning the soles of my feet, and every step felt like fighting quicksand. I tried to scream, stop him, but it was like being stuck in a nightmare. No sound came from my throat. My voice was stuck. I dug in and tried to run faster, but I was let down by my adrenaline fueled body, which was shaking and objectively failing to make up any ground. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. I kept running after him, screaming my voiceless screams. Long story short, I never got my wallet or anything back. I was penniless in a bikini in a foreign country, completely by myself. My flight home was booked for another 2 months away, I believe I had. And I was determined not to go home early. I don't know if this was just my stubbornness or me, being guided by the universe, but I said, I'm not going home early. So I had to figure out how to make $200 US that my dad wired me to last 2 months. And this was also at a point where everything was still cash. They didn't take cards for anything. Sometimes I could do online bookings but remember, I didn't also have cards. So when I got new cards made, I had to have them sent to my dad in West Virginia. Because I wasn't in one city more than a few days, I couldn't get anything sent to me. So I was also living with no ID. Thank God I had my passport at the hostel. I had no phone, no ID, no cards at all, and $200 cash. And thankfully, I was living on $10 a day. But I had to think about how to do things on the real cheap and how to make that money last. So I literally Googled, I went into a internet cafe and Googled free things to do. And I saw these meditation retreats come up that were donation based. Now I thought this is great. This is a place where I can sleep and eat basically for free because I don't have any money to donate. And so the envelopes that come around at the end, sorry, but I don't have anything for you. And I will say that I've donated since after to make up for that time. The first time I went to a meditation retreat and I wasn't able to donate anything. Now, meditation definitely was sort of the thing that clicked. I had been reading meditation, mindfulness, Zen, Buddhist books for probably 10 years before going to a meditation retreat. So I already intellectualized being Zen and I thought I was quote unquote present. After doing that meditation retreat, I realized that I was never present for anything in my life. Just because you're alive and breathing does not mean you are present. Just because somebody says, I'm listening, does not mean they're actually present. There's a statistic that says 97% of people think they're actually present and aware, self aware. Only 10 to 15% of people are. I will talk more about this, but presence and awareness, mindfulness is what I'm really big on. This is a practice and it's an art. It is not something you read. It's like trying to read the word water and knowing what wet feels like. You cannot do it from reading books. You have to experience it. And you have to experience it over and over and over. And now, in these meditation retreats, I was just doing mindfulness meditation where you just bring your attention back to your breath, back to your breath, back to your breath. This is what mindfulness is paying attention in the present moment without judgment. So you're just literally bringing your attention back, bringing your attention back. Or you're doing a body scan and anytime you get distracted, you bring your attention back, you bring your attention back over and over and over. And now it sounds really simple and it almost sounds really easy, but it is the hardest thing you will ever do in your life. And so that first meditation retreat really put me on this path of, I wouldn't say obsessed, but something inside me clicked. Now, in that first meditation retreat, that was the first time in 28 years that I had a healthy gut. So I was using the bathroom every single day at that meditation retreat. That was the first time in 28 years that that had ever happened to me. I was used to using the bathroom only maybe once a week. I was living in New York when I had really bad GI issues, and I went to all these specialists. None of them ever said stress, trauma, meditation, mindfulness, yoga. None of this was ever mentioned. I had doctors saying, oh, well, maybe that's your normal. Maybe, not everybody uses the bathroom every day. I'm going to call bullshit to that. Anyways, these meditation retreats really clicked something inside of me. And all I knew was that I could not go back to the life I was living before. I knew that I couldn't move back to New York after this. I had to, they say, if you don't want your hair cut, don't hang out in a barbershop. New York was my barbershop. I did not have any boundaries in that city internally, and I had massive walls up externally. I did not have healthy boundaries. I did not have good self-compassion. I did not have awareness. And I want to share with you all the different healing modalities that I have done and tried. And I'm going to talk to you about the ones that have really stuck with me, that I use literally every day, and that I see to be the most efficient and effective for people in general. Now, all of these healing modalities are holistic. So I've never taken medication, and I actually have only done talk therapy. This is the first year I ever did it. And we focused on IFS, which is internal family systems. Really highly recommend that type of therapy. It's great, especially for trauma. But the practices that I've done, so mind body practices, I started doing yoga. I'll talk about that, how I hated yoga and thought it was stupid for so many years, but then I was forced to do it after living in a ashram. Meditation and mindfulness. Now, that I would say was the beginning of my like spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that. I've done a lot of breath work, so a lot of pranayama in yoga, whether that was at the ashram or in my yoga teacher training. I've also done emotional freedom technique, which is tapping, and I also do a lot of that with my clients. I've done rapid transformational therapy, which is it's like hypnosis. I've also done RRT, which is rapid resolution therapy. I can't really remember what the dynamics are, but I know that it was great. I've done the body code and emotion code. I've done Reiki, angelic Reiki, spinal energetics, craniosacral therapy, psychic mediumship, kinesiology, Akashi record readings, past life regression, inner child healing, energy clearing, chakra balancing, natal astrology chart reading, human design readings, tarot and oracle card readings, palm readings. I've studied and practiced Ayurveda. I've had acupuncture, cupping, dry needling, nerve needling, or the Bostock method, Chinese herbal medicine. I've had massage therapy. I went to this guy who was like a kung fu master. This was when I had plantar fasciitis. I don't know what he did, but he claimed he was a kung fu guy. I don't know what that modality was, but I tried that holistic healing. And recently, I actually did ayahuasca as a way in ceremony, as a way of healing. And that was about 6 months ago. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that when I have some guests on who actually use psychedelics as a form of healing with their clients. But that's just to give you an overview of the past. So I started meditating in 2013. That was 12 years ago. I have tried all those things in the past 13 years. And I can say yoga nidra is another one. I mean, you name it, I've probably done it. Sound healing, so many different modalities. But the ones that stick are all somatic. So somatic means connecting your mind with your body. The reason why somatic healing is so effective for me is because I was so disassociated and disconnected from my body that I needed the pathways back in. And now I'm a big fan of science. The reason why somatic practices work scientifically, two major reasons: neuroplasticity and interoception. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to rewire itself. So if you want to create any change in your life, neuroplasticity is the way. And now, the only way that neuroplasticity works is by practicing mindfulness or attention training. You have to use attention training and you have to have deep rest. So your brain does not heal and rewire itself unless you have deep rest. Deep rest does not mean sleep, my friends. I'll do an episode on the 7 different types of rest. But rest is one of the key essentials for neuroplasticity: attention training and deep rest. Now, interoception is your body's ability to feel sensations. Why is this important? Because your sensations are what's driving all of your behavior. I'm going to say that again. Your sensations in your body are what drive every single one of your choices and all of your behavior. Most people are going to say, oh, well, it's my thoughts. Oh, it's my feelings. Oh, it's my emotions. Oh, it's because my boss is a jerk. Oh, it's because my partner's not thinking or being considerate of me. Oh, it's because the kids are screaming. We love to blame the outside world for how we behave. I'm going to go into that in probably another episode, but healing is taking full responsibility and accountability for how you show up and how you behave, what you say, how you treat yourself, as well as how you treat other people. And all of that starts from a sensation in the body. Your sensations are what drive your feelings, your emotions, and then your behavior. That was my foundation in meditation, was Notice the sensation that's coming up. Notice the story that we go into, what we attach, our associations, our feelings, and emotions with that sensation. And then notice what our behavior and our drives are after that. So, somatic work, connecting the mind and the body. And this is what I do with my one-to-one clients because it has been the most effective for me. And I believe it is scientifically the most effective for everybody. Talk therapy, of course, is great and it has its time and its place. But if talk therapy was so effective, why do we have more licensed psychologists than we ever have before? Yet we have more suicides, anxiety, depression, stress levels rising more than ever. I'm not knocking traditional talk therapy. I'm just saying there's clearly some gaps in the system. I believe the system is broken, but we as humans are not. And everybody has the ability to heal and to become resilient and resourceful. And that's what I like to teach my clients how to fish. So self-reliance and self-trust is that foundation piece of all healing. And that's what I hopefully help my clients do is to build that self-reliance and self-trust that you can handle anything that comes your way by being in your body. So to go over that second part of the question, what do I do when the old pain is overwhelming me? I use my ABCs method. ABCs. The golden ABC is always be connected. Always be connected to your body. So when something is overwhelming you, you're probably feeling a lot of overwhelming sensations. You're probably thinking a lot of overwhelming thoughts. What we want to do is get out of our heads and into our bodies so that we can process the sensations and that we can be with the sensations so that they aren't quote unquote overwhelming. They might feel intense, they might feel activating or charging, use whatever term you want to use, but we can handle it. And that's what you want to train your body to do, that no matter what the situation is that you are safe, you are okay, and you got this. Always be connected. So I teach my clients how to get into your body and out of your head. And I use many different tools and ways because another big thing is what works for me may not work for you or may not work for you at a different time and stage in your life. Your tools for maybe at the office are going to be different than maybe dealing with something with your kid or something with your partner. So this is another reason why I don't think it's a one size fits all, but it's to learn how to connect with your body and know what works for you and to do more of the things that help you and bring you peace, less of the things that drain you and bring that sort of heaviness, negativity into your life. The golden ABC is always be connected, how to connect back to your body. Then the ABC method is awareness. In order to change anything, you obviously have to have awareness. But I do find that this day and age, we tend to be what we call very aware, but we're masking it for being probably hyper vigilant, where we're super aware and we're not doing anything about it because we're stuck in a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode, which is a disconnection to our body. But we're saying and claiming that we're so self aware. We're actually not. Being self aware is being able to be in that disconnected state and then being able to regulate yourself back into a connected state. So if you're being stuck in that hyper vigilant where you're super aware of everything, but you're not able to make change, that's not self awareness. That's hyper vigilance. So awareness, this is where you train your body and your brain to come back to the present moment. Remember, attention training. And to know and understand, okay, what's going on in my body? Where do I feel it? And then what can I do to find safety, to feel more grounded, to feel more peace, to strike when the iron is cold? And, the word yoga means to yoke with yourself. This is all the work. Everything is yoga. It's how to learn how you operate and function so that you can feel good about your reactions, your responses, and your behavior. So awareness is going to be the first step after, ABC, golden, connected to your body. B, boundaries. I'll do a whole episode on it because it's quite complex. And I would say every problem in your life will be solved by boundaries. And most people think boundaries are just external boundaries, giving boundaries to other people externally. But boundaries, the most important boundaries and the strongest boundaries are actually internal. And if you have very strong, healthy internal boundaries, your external boundaries are a breeze. Like you don't ever really have to worry about them because all the boundaries start with the inside. So knowing how to protect your energy, your time, and your nervous system. Now, again, most people think they're doing that, but they're actually just doing what they always and normally do without stepping back and saying, actually, my body is giving me these signs, usually through physical signs, that my body is asking for some boundaries here. And anger is one of the most amazing emotions because anger is telling you where you need to put boundaries in place. So people love to demonize anger, but anger is one of the most beautiful therapeutic emotions. One, every emotion has value, but two, anger is showing you where you need to put boundaries in place. And more than likely, it's going to be an internal boundary. One of the biggest internal boundaries that people think is very externally is this idea that they have bad time management or they don't have time and they lack focus. You are not distracted because of all the distractions out there. You are distracted because you have poor internal boundaries. Take that responsibility. It is on you. And the last component of ABC is compassion, being kind to yourself throughout all of this. Taking full accountability and responsibility. A lot of the times we tend to be very hard on ourselves because of it. Oh, well, it's my problem that this is happening. Yes, it is, but that doesn't mean you have to be into yourself going through the process. Take responsibility, but treat yourself the same way you would someone you loved dearly. Could be your kid, it could be a family member, it could be, a newborn, a puppy, think of how you treat these people with so much compassion, so much patience, so much understanding, doing that for you. And again, this is also something that people think that they do well until they slow down and they start to notice the things that they're saying in their head, the things that come out of their mouth. All of this matters. How do I deal when something is overwhelming me? I come into my body, I come into my breath. I'm going to do an episode on foundational breathing or functional breathing, how to breathe optimally. I'm going to have a really awesome guest on. But coming back to my body, coming back to my breath, people think that healing yourself or and creating better relationships around you is really complex and you have to go to years of therapy and you have to do all these fancy things. No, I'm here to tell you that you can heal yourself at any age, at any stage, and no matter what you have been through, if you are willing to do the emotional work, because it's not easy, but I will guarantee you that it is very worth it. And you may lose some relationships for it, but I always go back to this Dr. Seuss quote: those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. The right people on this healing journey will stick with you, and the ones that are not meant to grow with you will fall away, and that's okay. Dealing with overwhelming feelings is not about never having them again. It's about knowing that when they come up, you can handle it, you can be with it. Just because I've been on this healing journey for 12, 13 years does not mean I have not had very intense, overwhelming things happen in my life. Now, very recently, I found out that the man who raised me is not my biological father. My nervous system went immediately into disassociate and shut down. That first day when I found that out, I noticed all these signs in my body. But what did I do? I used my ABCs method. I was aware of what was going on. I started to put up boundaries. And that was with my time and my energy. And then I was very, very compassionate with myself, super compassionate with myself. That was like, it's one of the biggest parts of the puzzle. But I always say, the ABCs are together for a reason, and one of them isn't more important. Or healing does not mean overwhelming and stressful things will never happen. It just means that you become more resilient and more resourceful, more self-reliant, and you build more self-trust that no matter what life throws at you, yes, of course you might be upset and you might be sad and you might have a lot of grief, but we don't fear feelings. We fear avoiding the feelings for sure. And scientifically, emotions do not last in the body more than 90 seconds. It is our own thought patterns that keep our emotions on a loop. I'm trying to keep these episodes to a shorter format, so I'm going to end it there. But if you do have any questions or anything that you want to chat about, please send all of your requests my way. If you want to know more about my wild ride from mindlessness to mindfulness, pick up my book, Trust the Flames, and I will see you next time.